Like smoke, ladies hang around around a player. Yeah. And they say all the lyricists are dead, huh? Speaking of player, we've got Sash Martiningo on our side here. His show is coming up very soon. He did say that we can have another half an hour of his show because we're running a bit late, but I said no thanks, Sash. Not this time.
Yeah, we're gentlemen around here.
Not this time. We try to keep a close ship. But thanks for the offer. Sasha Martiningo coming up next with Gears, with the Bulls Babes, and Daisy, and no doubt a whole bunch of other songs that make you want to think you're throwing your hands up in the air in a club somewhere. Love that guy. Getting on to our topic, we are running a bit late. We are up to the 11:30 hour. We have @SportBilly says from Twitter with us. Billy, still there?
Yeah, still here, holding on.
Yeah, I just got to keep check. You know, after beating you in Eisner last week, I know that the pulse rate is very low, and you could have nodded off or maybe gone to an oyster bar or two. Sean, you're not a big golf fan, are you? You're not a big man of the ball and club.
I like golf. I do like golf. But I don't follow it as fervently as you gentlemen do.
Yeah.
I think the main reason for that is just there's only so much time in my sport watching schedule that I
have
can
the same thing,
get into.
And that's why I don't do football, netball, most things with ball in the end. Actually.
So like there's a bit of editing for me. So like cricket and rugby will always be foremost. That's why I was brought up. It's what I love.
Yeah, I like that.
Football is getting lower and lower down the priority list. I'm watching less football the more it irritates me. And golf's getting a little bit higher.
Wolves, I think.
Sorry, I should watch?
Less Wolves games.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Okay, so our topic today is golf is a world sport on the up. Now, that might sound like quite a sweeping statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze why it is. You got to put it in perspective. Now, there is many sports, like you just said now. You can only take in so much on your sporting menu, so to speak. So the good ones have got to come up, and you got to prioritize your viewing. So what I've done is I've created a list which you guys are welcome to fiercely debate. Don't just think because I hold the button here that I'm going to turn you off if you don't agree with me. First up, tennis is bloody boring. Yes, no?
I say no initially.
Okay.
I do like tennis. And I still watch a fair amount of tennis.
My point, though, Sean, is that the biggest thing that's happened to tennis in the last few years is the coming to the fore of Andy Murray. Now, that is a damning statement.
I think that's brought a lot of the non-British world together, though, in the kind of anyone but Murray supporting campaign.
Because we really care about that.
No, it's like, look, one thing about tennis is that I can only really watch the top guys, personally, go at it. So it's like, whereas the other sports I can watch, I can watch supposed minnows battle it out.
Yeah,
but
it holds something,
not really.
But you're right. If you're watching two Eastern European guys with like 17 consonants each in their names, you're not going to be that interesting when it goes to that fifth set.
Once we've gone beyond like
Or
10th in
game.
the world, I'm starting to lose a bit of interest.
It's no biggie. Billy, your thoughts on tennis?
Yeah, I think the good thing with tennis is that for the first, the last couple of years has showed that for the first time in a long time, there's more than one or two guys that can win it. With obviously Djokovic and Murray getting an Oscar and Murray getting an Oscar. What am I talking about? With Murray getting a Grand Slam and so you've still only got like four guys that I would enjoy watching. I'm sort of in two minds about tennis. Yeah.
Okay, well, you sound very enthusiastic, so we're going to go with tennis is boring. Next up, F1 isn't a sport.
I vote for that too. I vote for that too. Yeah, we both check over our shoulders if Sasha's listening. But.
And again, Sasha's popped out. He had something to do. Again, I will qualify the statement. A whole bunch of major brands traveling the globe, visiting target market-orientated countries, and promoting themselves through something glamorous like fast cars. This is nothing but a marketing exercise. Racing died with Senna, and that is sad in so many ways. It's kind of true, though.
I like the Sean Locke quote, the British comedian Sean Locke. He said that watching Formula One is kind of like putting two of the same washing machine on the same spin cycle and see which one's finishes first.
That's about right.
Well, I'm glad he's watching washing machines finishing first. Billy?
Yeah, I think Formula One, I don't watch it, but if what might get me to watch one would be if the guys were all in the same kind of vehicle.
Yeah. Again, marketing exercise.
Yeah.
It's useless. Okay, so the whole point of this, if you just tune into now, is we're trying to find why golf is a sport in the up. So we're going to assess the other sports between our two panels here, Sean and Sport Billy. Next up, rugby. There is just simply too much rugby.
Yeah, well, there is. I mean, we say it week in, week out. There's the guys butchering our favorite sport with greed.
Well said. You articulating very well today, Sean. Butchered indeed.
Well, thank
He's
you.
on fire.
He is on fire.
You say today like it's an exception, my
No,
word.
no, the bar is very high here. I think you're just taking it higher. It must have been a Justin Timberlake song from earlier.
Oh, yeah. That did wake me up a little bit. I like Justin Timberlake.
So, Billy, you agree rugby is getting watered down because of the sheer weight of fixtures?
Yeah, I mean, until they've been talking about it for 20 years, but until they actually start a global season, I'm sorry, but this is just the way it's going to go. You know?
It is. It's
That
only going
is
to get
it.
worse.
That
So,
is it. And that's
yeah.
the biggest issue right here. If we can get a global season together, which will probably help the Northern Hemisphere more than us
Yeah.
on the surface as well.
Probably.
So, and until then, we're just going to have to deal with this and keep complaining about it week in, week out.
Yep, we are going to keep complaining about it because unfortunately the problem with Super Rugby, now people think it's it's just Super Rugby, who cares? Thing
You
is,
can ask Tank to blog about it.
yeah, do you want to do
What?
that? Tank doesn't follow me on Twitter anymore, so you go for it.
Ooh. Blah, blah.
Yeah, so basically all this rugby and Super Rugby is watering down our Tri-Nations, it's watering down all the international times that we get to watch the rugby. Next up, boxing is a farce. Should we just say yes and move on?
Well, it's hard to just get into it from the neutral without seeing it that way. And that's the important thing when you're trying to follow the sport. That's the problem that boxing has to deal with. So I think saying yeah is a fair comment, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know that the sport's becoming a farce when it becomes the go-to sports for retired sportsmen. You know what I mean?
Precisely the point,
Definitely.
exactly. That is that again, it's the damning factor. All these sports are going backwards, and there's little things like that that just make it so clear. Next up,
WrestleMania's probably got more to offer at the moment.
well, it's probably getting better in that they're gaining in numbers. Boxing's clearly going down in numbers. Another sure sign here is that MMA stuff, mixed
Yeah.
martial arts, cage fighting, tapping out, that whole deal. The prominent, like the popularity of
Yeah.
that is a sign that boxing is falling down. Cricket has T20. Again, this is very similar to the rugby thing. Too much cricket's being played, it's being watered down, so the big contests are being compromised.
And cricket's just being run so awfully as well. It's like similar to the rugby
yeah.
boys, but worse, in my opinion. It's just there's just far too much meaningless cricket that's going on.
I think if we separated out Test cricket, though, like the last few years, Test cricket has been amazingly good.
Good point,
because, you know, there hasn't been a dominant side. You know, obviously, I mean, the Proteas at the moment, but you know, we haven't had that mantle for that long.
I think you're right in terms of the generation of the Australians going down and England and England's rankings going on the way up and us fighting there and thereabouts that then turned into us kind of hopefully being on a string of dominating. That era has been brilliant to follow from Test cricket.
Okay, so cricket does
there's
have
nothing
some.
like getting on top of an Englishman, or so Stuart Broad tells me.
Okay, so amongst other things, there's a slight exception that the form of Test cricket is doing well, which is quite nice because that's the one cricket that we all really enjoy. Well, all of us that like the game, that is.
Well, sorry to interject there, but some countries have to play this properly consistently though for it to
Yeah.
remain.
No, I
Because
totally agree.
otherwise, we're just going to be in real trouble in Test cricket.
I think it's every country's responsibility to prioritize it as well. Next up, we've got football is too common. Now I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but I think it's a valid point. We're talking about sports progressing and getting better, and again, football, because it's just so common, it doesn't interest me at all. I think it's very difficult to kind of get into this when you got so much on, and it's just leagues, and then it's the match fixing, and it's the deception, it's the diving, it's the scandals, it's Luis Suarez.
Yeah,
You know,
look,
you would have won me over if you just said football has Luis Suarez.
I was
Like,
actually
I
going to
would've
write
said,
that
let's-
exact
let's
heading.
move on, yeah.
that's the thing. It's just I wrote a piece a while ago on the pundit site where I was just raving about how unwatchable I'm finding so much football at the
Yeah.
moment. It's just I can't watch a game of football with 5 minutes going by without something acting like an absolute knob. Or speaking on the kind of Premier League context, but also like kind of throughout Europe as well.
It's terrible.
So
That's right.
so it's just I find that whereas I love the sport on the bare nature of it,
I love
like
playing it.
It's a really fun sport to play. It's like, but watching it at the moment is just really, really hard. I just can't see millionaires rolling around and crying and
No.
whimpering and whining.
So
a
again,
lot of it money related.
It falls into our criteria. It's a sport that's on the down as far as you can't take it that seriously. It's not exactly entertaining. And there's World Cups as well. It becomes such blasé affairs.
This World Cup held here. I'll say
fancy
totally
Champions League.
honestly that the football was nowhere near the highlight for the tournament.
No.
So most of the football games, the barebacks were irritating me.
Next
I
up.
also think, you know, I mean, I'm I'm not a football pundit by any means, but I see, a lot of people don't really like watching the sort of tiki-taka or whatever of Barcelona and Spain.
The kind of PlayStation football idea.
Yeah, like, Brazil at their best was always a great side to watch play. And they were exciting, and they could, they'd beat sides by plenty.
Yeah.
Whereas Spain's kind of, they're just like professional, and I mean, they're amazing. Don't get me wrong there, but they're just that sort of ultra professional, slick outfit. There's no sort of real, like that Brazilian flair is missing. I mean,
there's no
Brazil's
characters. There's no characters. These guys are such cut and paste wannabes with hairstyles and fast cars. It doesn't interest me the slightest.
I mean, who is the next David Beckham?
Romeo Beckham. Or is it Brooklyn?
I am joking.
I don't know. Or is it Harlem? I don't know. I lose track of Brand Beckham.
It's definitely not Milnerton Beckham, though. That one for sure. Okay, next up. American sports are just plain silly.
That is... I think it's a bit mean. I think that is a bit mean. Whereas, like...
Do you watch baseball?
I can't watch baseball.
Do you watch American football?
I've tried. American football, if it wasn't ruled by people that just wanted to create ad breaks, would be watchable.
Well, it's silly. You just made it sound silly, Sean. Billy?
The great thing about American sports is that they actually have to go to the Olympics and play some of it and get beaten by teams like Cuba. So
Yeah, baseball fell away quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see those sports grabbing
And
me.
I like basketball. Basketball's growing on me. I've got some like South African expats in America that are trying to give me like some. I'm trying to work on inside info on American sports.
Basketball's
And
my favourite, yeah.
I'm warming to.
But at the same time, it gets a bit boring, though. It's quick. It's nice to watch, but again, sit through a whole match of that.
But also, look, I mean, we complained about Super Rugby scheduling. Have you seen American sports scheduling as well? I think the baseball season is literally like 200 games a season or something.
You're right.
Nuts.
I went to the sports seminar last year, and there was one of the owners for the Red Sox, I think it was, and she was saying, like, her exact point was, you think you got it bad in Super Rugby? We have, and it was in the high hundreds, like 178 matches.
Yeah, it's just teams are constantly doing double hitters. Take a team that's not doing well. I mean, I haven't been following the American baseball log, but I don't know, maybe the Cleveland Indians. If they're having a really, really bad season, the fans will click 25 games in that this is not going to be their year. Now, they've still got 175 to watch throughout the year.
That is like sitting through the longest, crappiest movie ever, but you've got to kind of stay put because, well, you're in a cinema.
Yeah, so it's on
that's like watching the whole 10 yards of Matthew Perry, 12 yards, whatever that crap movie was. God, it was awful.
Imagine if the Lions played baseball.
Absolutely.
those season ticket holders would be disgruntled.
They would stop cleaning the stadium. Okay, next up, Olympic sports mean very little outside of the Olympics. So now we're talking about athletics, we're talking about swimming, we're talking about archery, equestrian. Again, these sports aren't exactly growing, they aren't exactly getting better, they aren't exactly attracting a new audience.
Yeah, some of it's an amateur issue and some of it's also a sport issue. But yeah, definitely fair comment.
Billy?
I think with athletics, I mean, I quite often tap into some of that Golden League action once in a while. What's a Diamond League? And then there's also obviously the World Champs. Those are quite exciting. But I agree, these kind of day to day.
But it's an exception thing. Like you're not going to phone your friends and say, "Come around for a beer," because the 800 women's has just started.
Exactly.
Not going to miss
you're
this.
doubting me here, but no, I wouldn't do that.
It's okay. I know you don't know any other woman in nicer besides your wife. Okay, which then brings us on to the flip side, why golf is so good, and why it is growing, and why I think it's more interesting than it's ever been, and why you'll see so much more money getting into it, so many more people starting to play the game, and a lot more headlines being taken up by golf. I mean, like today in our headlines, we don't have a favourite, we're not prejudiced to any sports here, but we normally take things that are talkable. There was 3 golf headlines in our show today. So this is why I think that golf is on the way up and only going further. Pretty much anyone can win at any tournament. You try to say, like we're talking about the French Open, Aussie Open, Wimbledon, tennis, all that kind of stuff. You know who's going to win, okay? It's going to be one of 4 guys. It's a given. Golf, you try to say that. Even Tiger in his prime. Okay, Tiger in his prime was a bad example. But now, with Westwood, all those guys, when they were doing well, they weren't shoo-ins to win. There was other guys. It was always going to happen.
And the sort of spin-off from that is to bet on golf is quite fun because you can get some way out odds. I mean, I saw someone has got Jeff Ogilvy at 65-1 to win the WGC. Yeah?
That's a decent punt.
Yeah, that's a hell of a punt. But you know what I mean. Obviously, because it's so open, you get these really good odds. But you know, if one of them comes in, you're seriously happy.
Yeah. Sean, do you agree with those terms?
Yeah, I do. I also like, well, the idea if you take a watch like me, who only wakes up for some like big events and obviously the majors, you know, so it's like I'll take the first 3 rounds of the majors where I'm basically scanning the big names and see what South Africans are on the move.
Yeah.
And then in round 4, I try to dedicate that day to as much golf viewing as I can to see if someone's going to do something. And so for those round 4 where you get the winners being decided, I like how visible the pressure is in golf.
Completely.
I think I find that very like attractive to the viewer.
It creates a great sort of drama and sort of scene around it.
Like you can see when a golfer's unraveling, or you can see when a guy's on the move, and then the
It is
score
so
it
public,
gets
you're
a
right.
little bit more. The score gets a little irrelevant at some point.
It
you
is
know?
because it's a complete sort of soap opera playing out. Like talking about unraveling, Greg Norman at the Masters, the French guy at the British Open that year.
Van der Velde.
Van der Velde, and eventually he ended the tournament like his knees rolled up, sorry, his pants rolled up to his knees. He was in water. He was playing out of canals. He needed like 7 to win, and he got an 8 or something.
Yeah, and there's no place to hide on the tennis place. You take it like an individual sport like tennis, where a guy can hide kind of under the pressure because he knows he's never out of it mathematically.
Sure.
You can just take it point by point and see what happens.
Exactly. He'll let this one slide because you get the next game.
Yeah, and golf and the period a guy has in between shots, if he's on the ropes, so to speak, it's compelling viewing.
Yeah, I mean, like we always talk about Test cricket being this ultimate test in sport, but golf at 72 holes, you cannot cock up any of the 72 holes if you want to win something.
And a mistake never escapes you as well. There it is on your scorecard.
And the great thing about golf as well is that, you know, in a game like tennis, if the other guy's having a really bad game, you can't really show off your skill.
No.
You know, if you're playing against, you know, the world number 340, you're not going to see the best of a guy like Nadal, for example.
No.
Whereas in golf, like if McIlroy is shooting a 12 on the 14th at Augusta or whatever it was, you know what I mean? You're still watching golf on, you know, but it's equally entertaining watching the guy sort of throw his clubs in the water and pull a Henny Otter as it is watching, you know, the guy come back from being 6 shots back or something.
Yeah, completely. Okay, so we'll rattle through this a bit quicker. Our time, again, ticking. The next thing up is you don't get closer to the players live than any other sport than you do in golf. Like, you know, if you anything stadium-based, you sit in a certain spot and you watch in a certain field. Whereas with golf, you can watch the guy tee off. I mean, like 2 meters away from you. You can watch him putt. You can watch him go through his entire performance, essentially, right there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a friend of mine went to the SA Open at Durban Country Club not so long ago, and you know, he was following someone around that wasn't that popular. I think a young Swedish guy. And
what did his caddy look like?
Eventually, the guy invited them. You know, there were only about 5 guys following at that stage, early morning tee off. And the guy said, "I come behind the ropes," and they ended up walking down the fairway with the guy and chatting to the caddy, and like, I mean, this guy raved about it for ages afterwards.
Yeah, sure. No, it is a great experience. I've actually done something quite similar. And the insights and the things you get from watching a pro golfer, even if you don't even know who he is, the way they conduct themselves around a game is really, really great.
I think on a side issue...
Easy.
On a side issue, are our domestic golf tournaments well attended live?
No.
Is it just... poor in comparison? I mean, I know that you get some big crowds.
Sean,
in the States,
if you really want some balls, go there, stand in the 18th hole, and shout "boy" in a small. Also, don't shout "boy," shout "ball" in a small boy's accent, and then you'll get lots of free things. They're nice guys. The next up is that what makes golf so amazing is the majors. Tennis has the same sort of thing, but they're not quite the same. They're like the same prestige, the same heritage, and just the sheer excitement because yes, tennis has the French Open on clay. Open in golf, obviously, there's played on links courses, but like tennis doesn't have Augusta National. It doesn't have the green jacket of the Masters. Federer's white jacket when he cries at Wimbledon, that's not the same thing. Like there's nothing beats the majors in sport for me. It's just they're incredible.
Yeah, well, I struggle to divide the Australian Open and the US Open in tennis in my head emotionally. So I mean, I see it as a very, very similar test.
But then, speaking of the majors, you then get the Ryder Cup, which probably could be the greatest team event in sport the last sort of 10 years. Growing interest, huge intensity, massive headlines coming from it, and just incredible scenes of competition.
Yeah, I mean, the Ryder Cup's got to be... I mean, we've got absolutely no interest in it, but there we are.
Exactly.
You know, at midnight, absolutely enthralled by this thing, watching guys from other countries play golf against each other. I mean, that sort of shows you the quality of the competition.
Yeah, last year's Ryder Cup. That goes down. Goosebumps.
Last year, like we did a similar show last year, we nominated it as being one of the best team sports, golf.
Yeah.
Or like that was the topic of discussion. And when the Ryder Cup was on, it was a very big contender.
That
I mean,
good.
I know Sean stays up to watch the Davis Cup often, but
Okay, next up, unique playing fields. You like a sport called football? It'll always be on a field so long, so wide, 22 spitting, swearing, greasy-looking individuals most of the time, and they're scoring a net. Golf takes you all the way around the world, all kinds of different courses. Weather's a factor. Oh, it's incredible. Like, I know as a golfer going to some of these places, like from this country, it's incredible. It's a sporting atmosphere like no other.
I mean, any game that gets grown men to swoon over azaleas has got to be great. Yeah?
I totally agree. The next up is that sports lost characters. Now, going into other sports that didn't do so well on our list, you don't get to see them in the spotlight. Like, does anyone know who plays left back for a certain team or who comes on as like defensive midfield? You never get time to know about these people because they pass, they distribute, they tackle. In golf, you get to know these people very well. Look at the headlines again, okay? Now, everyone has an opinion or can say something about guys like Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els, Bubba Watson, Ian Poulter, Dustin Johnson. These names can go on forever and ever. Everyone knows about them. And there's something to be said about them because they're sports lost characters.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you touched on the idea of football being like, maybe the strikers are the ones getting all the glory and the defenders are the ones being anonymous. So one of the reasons I like rugby is that it's one of the team sports where every player is asked to attack and defend on the field, so that you get a kind of balance there. Yeah,
well, that's another thing that rules out the American sports. Someone who come on and kick a ball.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Or you get the one line of scrimmage, especially for defense, or the one is especially for offense as well.
Yeah,
as they pronounce it.
You know
awfully.
far too much about this, Sean.
I know. I'm a mind.
He is a mind of experience when it comes to sports that we don't know about, Billy. But
He's
now,
definitely watched Clash of the Titans too many times.
Speaking of sports large characters, another great thing about golf is that the greats linger on. Billy, do you want to carry on with that hitting?
Yeah, I think I'll take it from here. But it is so true. I mean, I saw on your post you had a picture of Mr. Player's nemesis, Tom Watson.
Yeah, old square grooves.
Yeah, old square grooves as he's called on the seniors tour. But yeah, I mean, there you had a guy at 58 or whatever it was,
59,
challenging for a
59.
major title. Like, yeah, 59. Yeah, I mean, that was fantastic. And occasionally you see these guys. I remember. Do you guys remember? I think in the late 90s, Jack Nicklaus was up there in the top 10 of the Masters.
Yeah.
And he missed a few putts and things on the back nine, and he had it within his grasp. And I think he faded to about 12th or so. But yeah, I mean, that's the great thing is the longevity of these sports stars. You've got a guy like Ernie who's won his first major in '94, and he's winning a major in 2012.
Yeah, and Mr. Player thinks he can win more. That was one of our top stories.
Listen, I don't know if he's going to win golf tournament in 6 different decades, but he can always
look. He's definitely not going to bow to 165 titles to his name. 9 majors, 9 senior majors.
No.
That is a major pro in golf. Like as like we get on, like as I get older, like they could just like hit the 30s now. But you see, when you start getting older than some of the sports stars in other sports, you start getting sad a bit. Like we read the other, was it Serena Williams was the youngest,
oldest
sorry,
one
at 30 years old.
Yeah.
That to me, that kind of stat is depressing. It just makes you feel. But whereas golf, your heroes do link on and on,
Which is
and
great.
they're not has-beens in their 30s.
Exactly, and it's great for the sport. It adds more profile, and it's just more to watch in the day. We're all entertainment fiends here. We all want to see these things that make us interested in sport. So I think quite unanimous on the panel here, as we've got to move on, Billy. Quite unanimous, golf is definitely on the up as sports go in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Throw in the handicap system there as well,
Also a great thing to play as well. Yeah, Sean, anything to add on that one?
Great to play. Oh no! I couldn't deal. I can't
Sean,
deal. With playing
I
golf
will
myself.
invite you. I'll invite you to a golf day soon, and you'll see exactly how good it is.